Chet Holmgren. Holmgren led OKC with 24 points and 12 rebounds and made both of his three-pointers. A game like this, with the Lakers down 0-1 in the best of 7, will give strong indications on whether Lakers coach J.J. Redick can make the right adjustments and get more out of his players than he did in Game 1. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You have something to say, and we want to hear it. KBLA Talk 1580 is engagement radio, not outrage radio. A place where your hopes, your frustrations, and your ideas are welcome 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Real talk, real people, real Los Angeles. KBLA Talk 1580, the station that sounds like the city looks. Tune in on your AM radio dial at 1580. Download our free KBLA 1580 app or listen live on our website at KBLA1580.com.
Unapologetically progressive.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's thought-provoking Thursday, and we are in conversation in the first hour with Atiba. Atiba, former Deputy Executive Director of the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. He's a Strategic Alliance Consultant and President of Party Politics US. He's worked with TV political contributor for BNC News, In the Heat, In the Know with Mo, The Leslie Marshall Show, iHeartRadio, GovExec, 96.3, WHUR, and the One America News Network. Atiba, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Jesse, it's good to be with you. How are you doing?
Brother, I felt like I spoke with you just yesterday. And on the question of how I'm doing, I am exhausted. And let me tell you this truth. Yesterday, after the end of the show, I dismantle the show along with our producer, Gina Towns. And we drove from the city of Chicago to Hampton, Virginia. We are presently in Williamsburg, Virginia. Tomorrow, our producer's son graduates from Hampton University. And literally, with my mother, we drove all night to get to Hampton. And I'm grateful for the traveling mercies that were extended to us. And I'm grateful for our conversation today, Atiba. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, Jesse. You know, and it's amazing what we do for family, what we do for love, and what we do for our college graduates. So congratulations, for this upcoming graduation. And I think Howard University's graduation is this weekend. It's a beautiful thing to see so many wonderful, beautiful young people graduating and moving on to this next chapter in life.
Atiba, I know that we're going to have a broader conversation about some of the current issues that confront our community, confront our country, and confront our world. But you wrote a very compelling post yesterday called, and you hashtagged it, About Last Night on your website, Facebook page, Atiba Madian. That's Madyn, Atiba Madian, for those of you who want to read along with the post. Atiba, it's compelling. Share with us your thoughts about last night.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, we started us off talking about college graduates, and Monday morning I flew to Washington, D.C. for my uncle who was 98 years old. He was married to my father's sister, who was 95 years old. He passed away, so I went there for the funeral. It's an amazing celebration of life. And when you think about taking the road less traveled, I just think, you know, in terms of my Uncle Danny, just an amazing man, and a lot of wonderful things spoken about him. In light of that, being in DC with that, and they were married for 77 years. I just want to add that because that's just an amazing feat in itself. But Tuesday, I went to go see a friend of mine, and we were talking about DC politics, what's going on. And Ben's Chili Bowl is a historical, and I'm sure you know it, is a historic landmark in DC. And I had seen the week before that they had done some renovations. So I thought, after leaving my friend's house, let me go down here, see what the fuss was about. Why was Spike Lee and so many other people there for their reopening? And when I parked, I just wanted to run inside for a couple minutes. I parked, I put the hazard lights on, I was on the curb. I walked in for about 2 minutes. And when I came back, and when I walked out, there were a lot of young people congregated on the street at about just after 11 p.m. And I mention this not because they were congregated on the street, it was more so the way that they were congregated on the street and how unruly and how loud. But, you know, of course, you know, we want to be patient. This is what young people do. When I came back from the car, the three gentlemen were leaning against my vehicle, a rental car. And the other one was playing with the mirror as if, I don't know if he wanted to tear it off, or I don't know exactly what was going on. But I did walk up to them. I said, get off the car. And I was, when I say uneasy, I was never felt like I was in danger, but I could see how other people might. I mention all this just to say, because I don't know if this is a byproduct of what happened during COVID. I don't know if it's a byproduct of parenting, but there used to be a sense of excellence. And Ben's Chili Bowl is literally, when I say across the alley is here, and right next to it is the Lincoln Theater, a theater where so many, Duke Ellington, Pearl Bailey, so many others performed. And I think it is very important that I note that I am in no way saying I don't believe that young people should get together and have fun. But the extent, and in terms of the disrespect, in terms of the way that we're seeing some of these things play out, and the responses that have come on the post are clearly saying that there is something that we need to be talking about.
I read the post with great interest and read all of the comments. I don't want to say that they're necessarily evenly split. Some obviously take the position that you've taken over the course of the writing and the experience that is unique to you, to what you experienced. And then there are others who are hypercritical of questioning your motives and motivations, kind of singling out groups of young African American men who gather. I'd like to explore that more. I know we have a guest that will be joining the program, but when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580, before our guest gets here, maybe we can dialogue about this and see what the common ground actually means. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. This is a conversation with Atiba.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
For 70 years, the Humane Society of the United States has worked to end animal cruelty. Now, we're continuing that mission as Humane World for Animals, because we work around the globe to care for animals who are suffering today. And we tackle the root causes of cruelty for a kinder tomorrow. We are Humane World for Animals, and together we can make a difference. Help make change for animals. Visit humaneworld.org.
Progressive knows that for business owners, vacations hit different. But hey, at least you finally took a vacation. And look at that. You only answered 53 calls, 84 emails, onboarded one new hire, and covered for Chris while he's out on paternity leave, and you did it all from a kayak. Because you, my friend, know how to relax. All right, you may not know how to take a day off, but you do know both your personal and business auto insurance needs can be covered in one place with Progressive. So at least that's relaxing, right? Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states or situations.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black.
Keep following the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Pakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Jashana Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Thought-Provoking Thursdays, and we are in conversation with Atiba. Atiba, at the outset of the program, talked about an experience that he had last night in front of Ben's Chili Bowl. I know the area very well because for more than 4 decades, my parents own a home on 4th and T in Washington, D.C. My father and my mother purchased it when my father was running for shadow senator for the District of Columbia in an effort to make the District of Columbia a state. We needed those 2 senators, and we need them right now. We need a voting representative in the Congress. We need that right now. And so Dad, Mom, myself, and others, we walked to Ben's Chili Bowl. In fact, for the last couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, maybe even almost a year, Ben's Chili Bowl has been located across the street on U Street because, the renovations have been taking place in the historic landmark that Atib acknowledged at the beginning of the program. A few moments ago, he said he double parked and stepped inside briefly, which is written in his post. But what I walked through and what I came back out to will stay with me for a long time. A large group of young people, teenagers mostly, flooding the sidewalk. Loud, disrespectful, unchecked, not just energy, directionless energy. The kind that doesn't build, it erodes. Let me ask a question, Atiba. How long was your interaction with the young people after you walked out of Ben's Chili Bowl? Because the language, at least from my initial take, and something that's going to be with you for a very long time, was so, if I can say it this way, tangible, palpable, you could feel it. Share with us what that felt like and what it did to you.
Yeah, thanks. And let me preface it with, because there's a whole lot of other stuff that's been going on in DC, including, and I was talking to one of the candidates for office in DC yesterday, 12-year-old kids have recently killed. And in that conversation, it was the feeling that the young kids who were friends of these young people who died seemed numb to their friend being killed. And I'm prefacing it with that because as someone who was born in Washington, D.C., who grew up during the 80s and 90s, who went to Dunbar High School and basically took transportation across the city at a time when, unfortunately, it was called black on black crime. We were killing each other. The sense and the feeling that I felt then, I haven't felt until that night. Not because I necessarily felt that these young people would cause me any harm, more so because of the way that they were assembling and the way that they were acting. In my opinion, some of us would call it acting out. And it was something that moved my spirit enough to say something about it. So I moved my car and actually parked, and I walked back over to where these young people were, because I wanted to see what I was feeling. Was this real? Was it real? And it was. And it was, saying lost, Jesse, is not necessarily the thing, but there was nothing positive about it. I spent a lot of time on U Street as a kid. When I say as a kid, in my 20s, going to Republic Gardens, State of the Union, Chicha Lounge. And the way that we were then was in no way compared to this. Now, that's not to say, Jesse, the generations before me would not have thought the same thing about us. But what I will say is the difference that I felt there, and based on the comments that I'm reading on the post, is that other people are feeling that. And there is a tension that's going on in DC where there are National Guardsmen, as the way that it is in other cities. There is a influx of white police officers in a city that has once been called Chocolate City. And there is a tension. And watching the police officers, white police officers, drive by, I had the feeling of watching something from a movie or a description of what it was like when we were peacefully assembling and police officers would drive by, for instance, i.e. Montgomery bus boycott. Except for the energy that I felt from those young people was one that was like a powder keg waiting to explode. And the powder keg that I talked about in one of the comments that I felt is the powder keg that exploded when Dr. King was assassinated. The powder keg that was brought on because of unfair inequality in housing, inequality in education, inequality in access to healthcare, inequality to income. And so where I'm also hopeful that to shift attention to, it's not just the young kids, it's also the parents. It's also possibly what may have come out as a result of COVID, where young people weren't able to socialize, where now socializing seems to be like this freedom, but this freedom without a great deal of responsibility, without recognizing that how you act will create certain reactions, not just from me, but from others. And if nothing else, I definitely want young people to feel that they can safely assemble, that they can safely have fun. But I also want them to think about how this is impactful of communities in which they are traversed, because in the neighborhood that I grew up in that has changed demographically significantly in Upper Northwest, I'm talking to my mother. My mother is saying that she's seeing the same type of behavior, but from the white kids. So this is not a thing that is just directed for me as to talk about African-American kids. It just so happened that's what I experienced there. It is something to say that there is something culturally happening across this country, across multiple communities, not just African-American. And it is something around the same demographic, and something that I think that we really should be talking about, because what happens at the top will come down to the bottom. And this powder keg that I started talking about, that I feel happened after the assassination of Dr. King, when U Street and 14th Street and 8th Street were burned by us, by African Americans. It was the direct result of that powder keg that was ready to explode. That's what I felt with those young people.
So it's really interesting. It's really interesting because there are two extensions of the story that you just added that were not part of the post. The first of which is you drove away, then you parked, and you came back to determine the palpable nature of what you were feeling. And that should be added, because that's not in the post. And the experience I think you said you had with your grandmother, who felt a certain kind of energy from a period that maybe both of us were too young to fully appreciate, but obviously existed, in the streets in our community. And that last one about, maybe this is taking place, or it is taking place upon multiple demographics across the country. So let me stay there for just a second and give you two examples of something I experienced in my own life. First, when I was but a teenager and I was hanging out with my boys, we had left Operation Push, my father's organization on the south side of Chicago. We weren't interested in hearing the Saturday morning forum that day, so we all walked over, about 8 of us, to the candy store, money that we were probably supposed to put in the collection plate that our parents had given us. We went to buy candy, just like Stevie Wonder says in the song. And on our way back, we're just walking down the street. Ain't no cars coming in any direction. My parents, Reverend and Mrs. Jesse Jackson, other people's young friends of mine, their parents, some are of means, some were just wonderful volunteers of the organization that I've known all of my life, and subsequently lifelong friends, some of my best buds. And this police officer pulls up behind us, and he flashes his lights. He puts the horn on us. And because we're walking down the middle of the street, albeit we should have been walking on the sidewalk, we get it, but we're talking. We're a block away from my father's office. My dad's up preaching. We're a block away, but we're just kicking it. And this white officer gets out and he says, "Nobody owns the streets. No gangs own the streets." And of course, to our amazement, we're looking at this cop like, WTF? I mean, who do you think you're talking to, dude? He just saw a group of black men walking down the street, kicking it, talking garbage, bringing no harm to property or to individuals on our way back to Push. We're young, budding social justice activists. I keep that in my mind because at 61 years old, that was an experience I had somewhere between the age of 14 and 18. But I'll never forget that interaction with the police.
And
as an adult, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Jesse. I'm sorry.
As an adult, my father, during the time of the crime bill, in a way that I criticized him for, and he was widely criticized by the community, there was a raging debate at the time about passing the crime bill. And my father said, when he walks down the street and he looks over his shoulders, and he sees a group of young black men. He's fearful, or he was afraid. Now, that's the Reverend Jesse Jackson saying that in the context of a national debate about crime. And the media took off with it. Pro-Bill Clinton, pro-crime bill Democrats took off with it and basically painted Reverend into a corner saying, hey, y'all, even Reverend Jesse Jackson is concerned and feels fearful in his own community about black youth. And I said, Dad, I ain't never seen you. This is my private conversation with my late deceased father. Man, I ain't never seen you walk down the street by yourself. Why'd you say that? That's never happened. I mean, you've always had people with you. You've always had security with you. So what do you mean you walk down the street by yourself? And the only thing that came out of this is this group of people politically are using what you said to justify the passage of the crime bill, the 3 strikes and you're out provisions. Now, how are we going to put that doo-doo back in the horse because you did not measure your words? And it's just not true. I just don't recall you walking down the street and looking over your shoulder, see a group of young black men and be afraid. You're Jesse Jackson. You're the hero to those young black men that you're looking over your shoulder at. They probably wanted an autograph. So it's just not true, Dad. And I say that, but these are my stories and my recollections and issues with my father. And then I think about the President of the United States, and I'll turn this back over to you. We got the whole show to talk about it. Barack Obama, when he referred to Trayvon Martin as it could have been his son with a hoodie on and some Skittles, who got murdered, or Breonna Taylor, who was misunderstood or misidentified or mistakenly identified, and our brothers and sisters who are being slaughtered out here in these streets by the police and by others, including black on black violence. I don't excuse it. I'm just simply saying that's like the reality of who we are. But my son could have been in front of Ben's Chili Bowl on 4th and T because essentially in Washington, D.C., that's where he was raised. And he might have been leaning up against your car, being absent-minded and chilling and killing it with his boys, not paying any real attention. But my son don't mean no harm to property or to you or to anybody else. And so I just want to make this point. Is there any chance that maybe to be born black in America is to be born with the presumption that when we gather, that because we are black and in our skin, there is the presumption that we are doing something wrong, that we are loud, disrespectful, or we're just out here kicking with our boys in front of Ben's Chili Bowl? Talk to me, Tina.
You know, the presumption is that the reason why I said what I said, and if you go back and read the post, I never said anything, even when I talked about excellence, as black excellence. I specifically was speaking to their humanity. There was a reason why I never said. Now, people looked at the picture, they equated that it was Ben's Chili Bowl. There was a reason why when I took the picture, was sure not to paint any pictures of faces in it, because I didn't want somebody to maybe accidentally see their child. So I was very deliberate about what I did, but I was also very deliberate about what I wrote. And I was deliberate about it because it's a conversation that we are not having. It is a conversation that I have also prefaced it with saying that there are white kids in another part of the area that the National Guard is not walking in that are acting the same way. So the conversation that I'm hopeful of having is where America's values are, not just where African-American young men and women, because there were also women that were out there. That's so that's all part of the conversation.
I respect that. I may have a slightly different frame of reference because on March 17th in the city of Chicago, if the National Guard were anywhere downtown and the river is painted green, if on March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, you saw the number of drunk white boys and drunk white folks, the National Guard and the police would have a field day. But in Chicago, they actually provide white folks with protection.
I get that. And I get that.
It's really deep. More with Atiba. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. We're having a conversation about our concern for our youth and the energy that comes from some of our gatherings. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is urging state lawmakers to keep the Bears in Chicago. He lobbied leaders in Springfield to reject a bill that could help the team build a new stadium in Arlington Heights.
There are members in the Senate caucus, both sides of the aisle, that do not like the bill.
Johnson says keeping the Bears in the city would benefit the entire state's economy. State lawmakers in Virginia are urging patience after the FBI raided Black Democratic State Senator Luis Lucas's Portsmouth office in a nearby cannabis dispensary she co-owns. Investigators say the raids are tied to an ongoing corruption probe, but have not released details. And rapper Kanye West, also known as Ye, is testifying in a Los Angeles lawsuit over an alleged unauthorized sample in an early version of his song Hurricane. A company called Artist Revenue Advocates claims Ye owes more than $564,000. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Now that the Lakers know Luka Doncic will not play in the series against Oklahoma City, it's more important than ever for players other than LeBron to step up and make an impact. In Game 2 tonight, the Lakers cannot afford another performance where LeBron is the only player producing. Austin Reeves, Marcus Smart, and Luke Kennard missed a combined 27 shots in Game 1. And 4 players on the bench, Jared Vanderbilt, Luke Kennard, Jake LaRavia, and Jackson Hayes combined for only 15 points. Hayes and DeAndre Ayton also have to do a much better job in defending OKC center Chet Holmgren. Holmgren led OKC with 24 points and 12 rebounds and made both of his three-pointers. A game like this, with the Lakers down 0-1 in the best of 7, will give strong indications on whether Lakers coach J.J. Redick can make the right adjustments and get more out of his players than he did in Game 1. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
You can't fix what you won't face. And we face it every day. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-478-6430 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-478-6430. That's 800-478-6430. What do you have to lose? Call 800-478-6430. Again, 800-478-6430.
Hi, I'm Fred Martin, founder of Compton Kids Club. I just want to talk about the authenticity and tell y'all about my homeboy, Tom Steyer. Tom is a rock star. When I met him, Tom gave a grant to schools in San Francisco. All the kids were on probation. We were flying instructors for 2 years to come and help those kids doing performing arts and turning their life around. Some of the kids that he supported, they've graduated from UCLA. Let's fast forward. Tom is in schools in Compton, hanging out with the kids in the piano classes. Brother Tom Steyer hangs out in the studio with us. These are the seeds that he's planted. This has nothing to do with elections. What's coming out of his mouth is not a campaign speech. It's authentic. And when he said he walks away from a business because he want to do his values, He ain't making that up because he's running for governor. This man is real.
Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through this city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580. Your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
The joint will be jumping. Ebony Repertory Theater, in association with Big Street Films, brings you one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Tony Award winner, Ain't Misbehavin'. The soulful, swinging celebration of the music of Fats Waller. From the rollicking to the romantic, this show is pure magic, full of the songs that defined an era and the voices that'll make you forget everything else for a night. Foot stomping, heart stirring, unforgettable. Don't miss Ain't Misbehavin' at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, starring Lettucey, directed by Ren T. Brown. This is the night out you've been waiting for. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Grab yours now at ebonyrep.org or call the box office today at 323-964-9766. Ebony Repertory Theater, bringing the culture, keeping the legacy alive.
Ain't Misbehavin' runs May 21st through June 8th at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's Thought-Provoking Thursdays, and on Thursdays at this hour, we are in conversation with Atiba. Atiba, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Atiba, just before the break, we had begun a conversation, and I think that I probably shared my thoughts and would love for your response.
Yeah, overall, and whether people agree with me or not on the post, I hope that people will come to a belief and understanding that we still need to have a conversation in this country about how we are treating one another. When I said before, what happens at the top trickles down to the bottom. Some people may think I'm thinking about the president, but I'm also thinking about parents. I'm also thinking about how we are engaged in no longer any civil discourse as it relates to politics or religion. We're not talking to each other. We're yelling at each other. The tensions or what have you are there. And young people have been watching this behavior. And what I see right now, I don't even know how young kids are surviving right now with the way that the economy is. You just say you drove from Chicago to Hampton University for a graduation. And the first thought that went in my mind wasn't how many hours it took you, not how long it took you. It was how much did you spend in gas?
Yeah, that was about $350 or more, by the way. 3 fill-ups, and it was very, very expensive. Thank you for raising it.
When I used to drive from Petersburg, Virginia, when I was at Virginia State University to Washington, D.C., gas was about 75 cents a gallon. I had a Volvo station wagon that my parents had given me. I would pile up as many kids as I could along with their bags and their laundry, and we would get in the car and drive to D.C., and everyone would give me a few dollars. It was enough for money for me to pay for gas, hang out for the weekend, and pay for gas back. So I don't know how young people are able to do that. So if what I saw and when I'm talking about this powder keg is a direct result of kids' frustration because of how economically challenged they are right now, or that they were in COVID and they didn't get a chance to develop certain things, interpersonal skills or what have you. These are all conversations I still think we need to have, but we're not having a conversation, Jesse, about parenting. That was because if you grow up, at least for me, growing up in a household where both my parents, with both my grandparents, with a host of uncles and aunts, I started this off saying I came to DC because I couldn't miss my uncle's funeral because he was just such an amazing person. That was respect. What I felt and saw and the unease that I felt wasn't because I felt like, oh, somebody's going to pull a gun on me, not because I was worried that when I asked these kids to get off the car, that I was worried they were going to attack me. It was the fact that they had the audacity and the disrespect to lean on someone else's car. I would never have done that. But no, it wasn't just that, Jesse. It was you just treated your elders a certain way. You treated each other a certain way. And, maybe some of this is social media. Maybe I don't know. What I do know is we need to have a conversation about how we are treating one another. And we need to have a conversation. And usually I try to stay away from the word need and say, hey, I'd like to see, but we need to have these type of conversations, whether we agree with each other or not, because where we are right now, we're talking about what's going on in terms of redistricting, voting rights being taken away. But we're not talking about the fact that when our ancestors and those who came before us were fighting these things, they were doing so with a sense of class, with a sense of dignity, with a sense of urgency that I don't see and feel right now.
Agreed. Let me just share with our listeners that you can go to Atiba's website, Facebook page, ATIBA. That's his first name, Madyun. Join the conversation. Atiba is a great conversationalist, and it's always thought-provoking. Stumbled upon it when he tagged me in it this morning and dedicated the show to it in large measure because Atiba will start a conversation that's important. And to the extent that we are engaging in this question of parenting, after Trayvon Martin was killed, I made sure there are no hoodies in my home. I'm sorry. As the parent, that's my responsibility. Conversation I had with my son about being respectful to law enforcement, about keeping his hands out of his pockets while he's talking to law enforcement. You see, I can resolve and address misunderstandings, but I can't do it in the context of a funeral or someone who doesn't see my son as a human being and recognize or respect them in terms of dignity. And as a parent, I expect my son to treat people with respect. I don't want my son hanging out in front of any joint in the city of Chicago or anywhere else in this country or in this world, leaning up against someone's property or speaking disrespectfully or speaking loud. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. When they come into contact with any other human being, including law enforcement. In fact, some people tell me my son is just too kind. One other patrol, I went to a Harold's Chicken when I was a member of Congress, and I was hungry that night in Chicago, I think on 75th and Stony Island Avenue. And when you pull up to this mall, you can literally pull your car right up to the front of the mall and you can see everything that's going on inside of Harold's Chicken. And I mean, they were about to throw down in there. I mean, it was clear. Two guys started pushing and shoving. The room had taken sides. I was just walking in the door and I looked around. Several of them caught my eye. I caught their eye. And a guy stepped forward and said, listen, stop this shh right now. And do y'all know who that is right there, man? And that's Jesse Jackson Jr., man. That's our congressman. My mother loves this guy, man. And in that moment, I was able to order my chicken, and I encourage everybody to go on home and go on their own separate ways. Let's live to see tomorrow. Ain't no big deal. Ain't nothing in here worth all of that. And I think about that story to this day, that maybe in that moment I saved some life by being there at that time because it was going down, man. But they had enough respect for me to be able to say, one of the guys said, my mama wants this guy to succeed. That what he does and what he stands for means something to us. We're going to stop this right now because this ain't going down like that. We're not going to read about this tomorrow, right? And I mean, I feel you. I feel the idea that you came back and observed it. And the kind of youth engagement, the role that parents play is a conversation, a broader conversation that we absolutely have to have, especially if we're going to engage the other critical issues like affordability in the Strait of Hormuz, the right to vote, what we're losing with the Louisiana versus Calais decision, healthcare for our people, the end of Second Reconstruction. There's a lot of stuff that we need to talk about with our youth that we can't get to if they're not here to talk about it. And so, we have to approach some of these issues with great sobriety, sobriety. And I appreciate, Atiba, that you've done that for us in this post, in this amazing commentary. The conversation has begun. It is at ATIBAMADYUN on Facebook. You're welcome to offer comments, and Atiba is actually engaging every single commenter in this post. He's doing
ain't easy.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More in our conversation with Atiba when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The BLM Center for Black Power is a hub for Black activism in the city of Los Angeles, a standalone nonprofit affiliated with Black Lives Matter LA. The venue is home to live events, meetings, and organizing drives for Black-led community-based organizations. It is also the base of operations for Black Lives Matter LA. Built on what used to be a nuisance property owned by an arms dealer, the BLM Center for Black Power is in the heart of Leimert Park and has opened its doors to everything from youth organizers to toy drives to film screenings and community town hall meetings. To make a donation or make a request, please visit blmla.org. That's blmla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
My name is Tyrone Owens, and this is my home for 23 years that burned in the fire. Me and my wife, Charlene, we had this whole yard decorated every year.
This was a house that sparkled throughout the entire neighborhood on all the holidays. It's a community that will never be the same due to the negligence of a utility company. So I am pretty upset about that.
We were nowhere near being able to rebuild with our insurance. It's going to cost $1 million to put your house back up.
I want to get back to that point where we were before the fire. I'm starting to get emotional, but I'll work through it. LA Fire Justice has been wonderful for us. They're just caring people. We have all faith in them.
Big ups to LA Fire Justice, who's given us hope to rebuild 100%.
Advertisement. Douglas Foster, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad. LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's be real. For too long, too many of our students have sat in overcrowded classrooms in underfunded public schools.
But as head of the San Diego School Board, Richard Barrera changed that.
Under Barrera's leadership, student literacy rose from the state average all the way to #1 among major urban school districts. Barrera led the way for smaller classrooms and for teachers to be paid what they're worth.
Barrera funded more counselors and mental health services, and community schools that teach real-world skills for future jobs.
A community organizer who became an education leader to fight for our kids. The only candidate for State Superintendent of Public Instruction,
backed by the 310,000 classroom educators of the California Teachers Association. Vote Democrat Richard Barrera for State Superintendent.
Ad paid for by California Teachers Association Independent Expenditure Committee, not authorized by a candidate or committee controlled by a candidate.
Getting around LA doesn't have to cost a lot. Metro has fares that fit every budget. 20 free rides for qualified riders through the Life Fare program. Free passes for students with GoPass and affordable options for everyone in between. Wherever you're going, Metro's got you covered. Visit metro.net/fare programs.
My name is Cynthia Mitchell. I've been an emergency room nurse in Los Angeles County for 25 years. I've been there through every fire season, every outbreak, every earthquake. Every time Los Angeles needed us, the doctors and nurses of Los Angeles County showed up. And right now, I'm seeing another disaster coming. Trump's cuts to Los Angeles County's healthcare system are a public health crisis in the making. Medi-Cal, public hospitals, disaster preparedness are all at risk, but we can stop it. Measure ER fights back against these cuts. For a half a penny, we keep emergency rooms open, care within reach for working families, and doctors and nurses serving the communities we love. When you vote yes on Measure ER, you're not just voting for healthcare, you're voting for LA. Vote yes on Measure ER by June 2nd.
I paid for by Yes on ER, Restore Healthcare for Angelinos, sponsored by St. John's Community Health and Health Justice Action Fund. Ad committee top funder, St. John's Community Health.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Looking forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Tomorrow is Fat Meat Friday. We'll be broadcasting live from Williamsburg, Virginia, after the Hampton University graduation ceremony. Our very special guest on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show will be none other than Jonathan Allen. Jonathan Allen is NBC's lead political reporter in Washington, D.C. We'll be catching up on all things White House, all things Congress, and all things the Supreme Court from one of Washington, D.C.'s most senior reporters and thoughtful journalist in our country today, Mr. Jonathan Allen. In this particular hour, our conversation on Thought Provoking Thursdays has been with Atiba. Atiba is the former Deputy Executive Director for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. Atiba, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Hey, Jesse, it's good to be here.
Atiba, let me pivot from our previous conversation to these congressional seats as well as these state representative seats. There's a movement afoot now to remove and chop up the congressional district of Benny Thompson. Benny Thompson from the state of Mississippi, the chairman of the Department of Homeland Security Committee, calls it the equivalent to a second civil war. He reminds everyone that his district on 3 different occasions over the course of 30 years was drawn by Republicans, not by Democrats in any partisan way, but the Republicans drew his congressional district. And now it's the very Republican Party that drew his congressional district that seeks to dismantle it. Mississippi will hold a redistricting vote at the infamous Jim Crow site, while the present Capitol, where they hold these hearings normally, is under construction or renovation. This particular vote is being held in the location where the state of Mississippi decided to leave the Union, and symbolically also where they passed a number of their Jim Crow laws. Candidates for Congress in the 9th Congressional District are now experiencing what we've feared. That is, the city of Memphis, Tennessee, and the state of Tennessee is going to be divided into 3 different congressional districts, making it almost impossible for an African American like Harold Ford Sr. and Harold Ford Jr., and even a progressive white Jewish liberal like Steve Cohen to get reelected. He'll be running in a non-compact district of African Americans who represent profound needs in the city of Memphis. Those needs will now be distributed across 3 far more conservative districts, making it less likely that they will have the kind of representation that they have come to enjoy historically. And very quickly, I wrote this morning, taxation without representation is tyranny. Unless you are from a district formerly covered by Section 2 and Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The Negro in America must continue to pay taxes to the system that permanently redlined the Negro into segregated housing and segregated communities, but now without representation. Tiba, your thoughts on the 191 projected African-American state legislators who could lose their positions, the constituents that they represent at this hour, and any closing words of hope that you might have to get us to the top of the hour.
I'm going to start this off first with something, hopefully it makes you laugh, and say, Negro, please. and then the next thing I'm going to say is, midterms effing matter. And then the third thing is that this is still in our hands. And we have midterm elections have historically had lower turnout than national elections. We have to turn out this election in numbers that are too large to manipulate the outcome. And that means each one take one. Like, we can sit and we can lament. And earlier today, we've been talking about a post that I had, and just understand that what I was saying about young people and what I'm saying about voting, it is that we all have a responsibility in this. And we also have to take some responsibility ourselves, because we have not historically gone back and voted in the off election years during the midterms and the numbers that we need to, in order to preserve the democracy that we want to protect. So what we're seeing, 191, I believe you said, African-American state legislators who are jeopardized, but we're not talking about, let's also talk about how many Hispanic legislators may be jeopardized, how many Native American and Hispanic, and other communities that may be impacted by this. They're changing the rules because your vote is that important. And that's why it's so important for us to go vote and to recognize that when we win this election, and I'm talking about win, because the problem they have right now, you talked about affordability earlier, and we keep talking about it every week, is that affordability is going to be the number one issue. You talk about what's going on in Iran. We talk about what's going on. Nobody's talking about what's going on in Russia and Ukraine anymore. No one's talking about what's going on in Europe with NATO. All these things are all connected. And as voters, it is going to be so important for us to recognize. Yes, sir.
Tiba, just before we get to your word of hope, share with us your T-shirts, where we can get them, and what these T-shirts say. And then we'll get to a very quick word of hope.
Midterms effing matter is literally the way that I say it. So it's midterms, FING matter.com. You can look and see it for yourself what the asterisk in between the F and the I mean, but this election is that important that we are using that type of language, because there are people that are at the top that are making the F word pretty popular these days. So, we're using it too. Because we if we want to win this, we have to recognize that our voice is our vote. And on our website, you can find out if you can check your registration, you can register to vote, you can find out who's on your ballot. Just go to the website. Oh, there are a whole number of things. And then, yes, you can also support the work that we're doing by purchasing something so that you can be in somebody else's face and telling them that these midterms effing matter to you. But overall, the hope that I have is that we're going to unite, and that keep a picture in your mind of what it must have felt like to walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge arm in arm to give us the right to vote. And just recognize that our vote is that valuable, that our lives are literally on the line this election. And people will say every election is the most important ever, but each election becomes more and more important, particularly when we start voting. So please vote.
Midterms effing matter. These are T-shirts for those of you who are watching on YouTube and visually here on the Facebook page. Tiba is wearing the T-shirt. He also has a number of other T-shirts that he has also held up previously, and over the course of the next couple of weeks and through the midterm process, we will be pushing these midterms effing matter T-shirts to remind people to get out and vote. Tiba, it's always wonderful having a conversation with you, brother.
Thank you very much, Jesse. It's great being with you.
Hey, thank you for the insightful, compelling, and thoughtful post this morning that has definitely started a conversation. Go to Atiba's Facebook page, ATIBAMADYUN, ATIBAMADYUN, and join the conversation. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. When we come forward, Johnny Mack on the World House. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Black Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is urging state lawmakers to keep the Bears in Chicago. He lobbied leaders in Springfield to reject a bill that could help the team build a new stadium in Arlington Heights.
There are members in the Senate caucus, both sides of the aisle, that do not like the bill.
Johnson says keeping the Bears in the city would benefit the entire state's economy. State lawmakers in Virginia are urging patience after the FBI raided Black Democratic State Senator Luis Lucas's Portsmouth office in a nearby cannabis dispensary she co-owns. Investigators say the raids are tied to an ongoing corruption probe but have not released details. And rapper Kanye West, also known as Ye, is testifying in a Los Angeles lawsuit over an alleged unauthorized sample in an early version of his song Hurricane. A company called Artist Revenue Advocates claims Ye owes more than $564,000. Get VIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Now that the Lakers know Luka Doncic will not play in the series against Oklahoma City, it's more important than ever for players other than LeBron to step up and make an impact. In Game 2 tonight, the Lakers cannot afford another performance where LeBron is the only player producing. Austin Reeves, Marcus Smart, and Luke Kennard missed a combined 27 shots in Game 1. And 4 players on the bench, Jared Vanderbilt, Luke Kennard, Jake LaRavia, and Jackson Hayes combined for only 15 points. Hayes and DeAndre Ayton also have to do a much better job in defending OKC center Chet Holmgren. Holmgren led OKC with 24 points and 12 rebounds and made both of his three-pointers. A game like this, with the Lakers down 0-1 in the best of 7, will give strong indications on whether Lakers coach J.J. Redick can make the right adjustments and get more out of his players than he did in Game 1. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
There is no denying that we've always been the conscience of this country. KBLA Talk 1580 is progressive talk radio built for our community, by our community, and with hosts who look like you, live near you, and care about what you care about. 50,000 watts of truth right here in Southern California. KBLA Talk 1580. Listen live on your AM radio dial at 1580 or stream us live on our KBLA1580.com website or on our free KBLA 1580 app.
Unapologetically progressive.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. If you're on the Ventura, Aldova, or Gardenia, or the Hills, if you're riding right now on the 405, the 101, the 5, the 10, the 118, the 110, you are now entering the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. Johnny Mack is a social entrepreneur, a scholar practitioner with expertise in the subject matter areas of peace, conflict, and social change and movements. He's traveled extensively throughout the Americas, Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East. Dr. Mack's research includes extensive study of Martin Luther King Jr.'s logic of nonviolence and the U.S. civil rights movement. The demand on his time is extraordinary right through here as we look at the dismantling of the crown jewels of the civil rights movement, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, the attacks on the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and public accommodations legislation. He explicates Dr. King's logic of nonviolence, using King's call to restructure the social edifice and particularly its triple evils of poverty, racism, and militarism, the revolution of values that is effected through peaceable power. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse. Good to be here.
Johnny, it's always good to hear your voice. And I want to take my time with you today for those of our listeners who are on the 405 or the 101 or the 110, the 118, the 10 or the 5, to hear the logic of what I think makes sense at this hour and to get your take on whether or not it makes sense or not. Yesterday, I broached the idea that the Selma to Montgomery commemorative marches that we've had since 1965 and since these critical pieces of legislation, the crown jewels of the civil rights movement, became part of the thinking, the culture, the vernacular, if you will, of the nation. It seems to me that those commemorative marches now, in light of the challenges to Section 2, essentially the weakening of the Voting Rights Act, that is the race as a factor provision in the drawing of congressional districts, state representative districts, city council districts, having been struck down, that instead of a commemorative march this year, and maybe we should march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge commemoratively, that we should line up all of the Democratic candidates in Montgomery for a presidential debate in March of 2027, before the Democratic nominee is selected, to hear where they stand on these issues, these turning points, if you will, in second Reconstruction beyond Brown versus the Board of Education. And for that matter, it wouldn't hurt either if in February of 2027, where African Americans engage the primary process for the first time, especially now that there are now challenges in South Carolina to the one African American congressional district that we have in that state, Jim Clyburn's district. If in fact South Carolinian Republicans are successful, they could literally draw one of the most influential members of Congress in the history of Congress out of Congress by 2028. That it's worthy of having a similar debate. I'm not going to say a forum where people get up and give a speech, a debate to discuss where these candidates are who want our votes in the general election of 2028 and where they stand on these issues, so that we might make a judgment and a determination based on the facts of what we heard and how we might be able to hold these candidates accountable. Dr. Mack, does that make sense?
Well, Jesse, of course it makes sense. I have to admit, it sounds patronizing, but I've seldom heard you say anything that doesn't make sense. So we start there, Jesse. But I would also say it is among the many things that we must do. What we have before us now, Jesse, is a well-orchestrated, coordinated, mobilized, and organized opposition. We discussed this a bit last week. Those who are working against all that was achieved, and I mean virtually, literally, all that was achieved in the mid-20th century struggle, those who are fighting against to reverse all of that, once again, are well organized and mobilized. And they're coming at us, Jesse, from north and south, east and west, up and down, out and through, over and under. My point, Jesse, is we cannot be a one-person show. We cannot be a one-trick pony, whatever cliche you want to use. Jesse, it's going to take all of us and everybody. We must vote, as you and Atiba were just discussing. We must understand the issues, as your question suggests in the debates that you are suggesting we must hold. And we must do more. And I think talking about what that more is, more than marching, is crucial at this most important time in our history and the upcoming election.
You mentioned that this is a well-orchestrated and a well-coordinated multi-decade attack on everything that we stood for in the mid 20th century. But from my perspective, I know the NAACP is going to do something, and the Urban League is going to do something, and NAN's going to do something, and the Rainbow Push is going to do something, and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference is going to do something. But behind the Fair Heritage Foundation and behind the well-orchestrated Yale University and Ivy League University critiques of the dismantling of everything that makes sense and made sense to the present body politic in the United States, it seems to me, Johnny, that going forward, as we prepare to come forward, that this is going to require the kind of bully pulpit to create the kind of coordination at every branch of government and every facet of American life. And we're going to have to intercept these Democratic candidates to get them on track with what we see as the broad nature of this attack and what can be done about it. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're in the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. We are going to solve some problems today. Stay with us right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
For 70 years, the Humane Society of the United States has worked to end animal cruelty. Now, we're continuing that mission as Humane World for Animals, because we work around the globe to care for animals who are suffering today. And we tackle the root causes of cruelty for a kinder tomorrow. We are Humane World for Animals, and together we can make a difference. Help make change for animals. Visit humaneworld.org.
Progressive knows that for business owners, vacations hit different. But hey, at least you finally took a vacation. And look at that. You only answered 53 calls, 84 emails, onboarded one new hire, and covered for Chris while he's out on paternity leave, and you did it all from a kayak. Because you, my friend, know how to relax. All right, you may not know how to take a day off, but you do know both your personal and business auto insurance needs can be covered in one place with Progressive. So at least that's relaxing, right? Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states or situations.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcasts of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, host of The Voice of Reason, weeknights at 7 p.m. here on KBLA Talk 1580, with a personal invitation for you to join me and Insight.me as we present The Healing Box, live at Inglewood's world-famous Miracle Theater, Saturday evening, May 23rd at 7 p.m. Look, I understand your attachment style has been running your life like a rogue algorithm, and nobody has had the courage to press pause. Until now, Dr. Pakoya McCall and yours truly are curating a night where clinicians, spiritualists, and an all-star panel of Black woman healers like Dr. Shalonda Sunshine Crawford, Dr. Deshauna Johnson, and spiritualist Precious McGill will join some amazing spoken word artists and the legendary comedian Louis Dix to diagnose, disrupt, and heal your relational wreckage in real time. Listen, bring your trauma. As a matter of fact, bring your baby mama. No, bring your testimony. And if you're still texting your ex at 2 a.m., baby, you're not just invited, you're the target demo. Tickets are moving fast, so grab yours at themiracleinglewood.com before your dating history gets flagged as a pre-existing condition. That's themiracleinglewood.com. We'll see you there Saturday, May 23rd at 7 p.m.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're in the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. Dr. Mack, let's not waste any more time. Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse. Good to be here.
Dr. Mack, in light of the decision by the Supreme Court in the Louisiana versus Calais case, there are some well-coordinated press conferences, some well-coordinated press releases, some well-coordinated speeches, and some well-coordinated sermons. But that is not the same as a multi-decade effort to restructure the social edifice that included appointments to the Supreme Court and the federal bench, that included majorities in Congress and legislation to sustain those majorities, control of the Senate, control of state legislative houses and governor's mansions, control of the media and the narrative that is our story. What the response to Louisiana versus Calais has shown is from my perspective, the overwhelming inadequacy of our organizations and their capacities, each standing alone and individually with well-written, well-drafted, well-thought-out, well-articulated press conferences, speeches, and sermons. But it is not the same as changing and restructuring the social edifice upon which our values are largely based. Dr. Mack.
Well, Jesse, indeed, I think we recognize the king himself understood that. It's why he called for a restructuring of the social edifice. But Jesse, as you may recall in the conversation we had last week, he also called for a restructuring of those working to restructure the social edifice. He very clearly and articulately said that the organizations and processes that were in place at that time would not be sufficient for what I like to call, and using his term, the difficult days that would be ahead. And we are experiencing those days in ways that I don't think King fully imagined. But at least he was prescient enough, Jesse, to understand that what it takes to really build a social framework that provides the kind of environment where peace and justice reign and people can realize their full potential is no walk in the park.
Johnny, when we talk about a social framework, I mean, we're also talking candidly about a political framework. What I do know is that in November, there will be an election. What I do know is 2 years from now, there will be another election. What I do know is 2 years from that, there will be another election. And 4 years from now, there will be yet another election and another presidential election. My point is the nation itself is on a grind. It is part of a system of unbroken continuity. It is part of a lineage from the first Congress that was ever convened to the present Congress. These Congresses are numbered. Our presidents are numbered from George Washington to the 47th president. The number of speakers of the House of Representatives are numbered from the very first speaker through tumultuous periods of American history to the present speaker, another tumultuous period, to whether or not this July 4th will give us some hope with the possibility of electing Hakeem Jeffries, the Speaker of the House. My point is, this system is part of a structure and a framework that is largely political because it is the most consistent part of the framework, whose consequences are not solely related to how I feel personally about restructuring or changing my own spiritual existence, but that my spiritual existence and embodiment is part of this process too. I own the voting process. I own it. And it has both psychological, political, and social impact on me when I cast my ballot.
Well, at least we hope that each of us owns it. We certainly have a right to be vested in it, and we have stakes in its outcomes. The question is, does our behavior reflect that ownership? And are we careful to ensure that our enfranchisement is such that we can exercise that enfranchisement in ways that give us a fair chance, a fair opportunity to realize the desires that we hold? Or is the system so fully rigged that ownership means nothing? And that's largely, Jesse, what we're faced with today. The system is so rigged. That's a term. It's so funny. That term has been used in many different ways on both sides of the political divide, each accusing the other of rigging the system. At the end of the day, the system is rigged in so many ways against the common citizen, who simply is trying to get by from morning to evening, one day at a time.
Johnny, I share Dr. King's frustration, because I can only imagine that as sophisticated as we are post Shirley Chisholm, as sophisticated as we are post Jesse Jackson, 84 and 88 and beyond, as sophisticated as we are Barack Obama, and the simultaneous withdrawal of our basic fundamental rights as African Americans happen to collide. I'm not even going to say they coincide. They collide with Juneteenth and the opening of his presidential library, which is a look back over the 8 years that he served as president of the United States. That's nostalgic. I'll be there. I'm very proud of the president, whose campaign I worked harder than most to make possible as the co-chairman of his campaign, and one of two forces in the African American caucus. The other being, of course, the late Stephanie Tubbs Jones, who was the Hillary Clinton supporter in the Black Caucus as chairman of Hillary Clinton's campaign, and as co-chairman of Obama's campaign. I was leading the other half of the Black Caucus for It's Time for a Change. That we deserve Barack Obama as president of the United States. That is the truth. That is a documented history. I say that to say that we're still commemorating first Black presidential library, while at the same time, a look back at the success of the 8 years of Barack Obama, which will definitely generate in some corners of the nation certain hope, and in other corners of the nation a reaction. But we're talking about the kind of institutional commitment that had to have frustrated Dr. King when people around him wanted to issue press releases, they wanted to give speeches. Everybody was trying to outdo the I Have a Dream speech. Everybody wanted their 13-minute opportunity to walk into the pages and the annals of history. But that is not the same as the Heritage Foundation's the Christian Coalition, the evangelical movement, and their slow march to Supreme Court justices and a president who would fight hand, tooth, and nail to bring about what can only be described as a white supremacist and oppressive authoritarian regime. Dr. Mack?
Yeah, and so we've been out organized and out mobilized, out strategized, as we were saying before the break. And Jesse, we don't have the we used the word framework, you and I just earlier. We don't have that framework. We don't have the institutions and the organizations in place that the opposition so carefully and meticulously put in place. And it's one of the reasons why we struggle quite the way we do. That doesn't mean that all is lost, particularly in the sequential or the voting periods that we have between midterms and full elections, et cetera. Much because of the I'm sorry, Jesse. Much because of the ordinary citizens who are tired of being tired. And somehow we've got to reach those ordinary citizens in ways that you and Atiba were talking about in the last hour of that mobilization and organization. It doesn't end with voting. The question is, once we've voted, let's say we do gain control of the House and the Senate and the levers of government. What then will we do?
Well, just because we regain control of them doesn't necessarily mean that Hakeem Jeffries is listening to our show today.
Indeed.
That he is digging in as deep as we are on challenging the social edifice for a revolution of values. It doesn't mean that if the governor of California or the governor of Illinois or the governor of Pennsylvania, should they become the Democratic nominee, or even Kamala Harris should become the Democratic nominee, that they share our understanding of anything more than what they will see or be able to accomplish in 4 years for their libraries, for their legacies, and for their moment under the sun, because I'm not convinced it's the same understanding of the nature of the restructuring that has to be put in place for 50 years, for 60 years, for 70 years. I am going to be at the Barack Obama grand opening on Juneteenth. That is my intention, to be there and to support the library and the work of the former president as much as humanly possible. It is a marvel and an extraordinary accomplishment for us to have a legacy in the city of Chicago, in our nation, and in our world that literally could bring millions of people to understand that moment in history. But the extent to which that moment in history ignores where we are today would be the great tragedy of the moment, and the great tragedy of the hour, that we are losing so much so quickly that had we lost what we are losing today on the scale that we are losing it today, in 2008, he never would have been president of the United States in the first place. That's just a fact. If we were confronting in 2008 what we are confronting in almost 2028, there'll never be another African-American president of the United States. There'll never be a woman president of the United States. If we don't understand that the restructuring of the edifice itself is so multi-pronged that, to your point, it is not just an individual. It is a commitment at so many different levels of the very nature of the onion to which we seek to peel back to get to the core of what the problems are that Dr. King understood to be pervasive: militarism, racism, and poverty.
Yeah.
Dr.
Yeah. And Jesse, I think the education process at the grassroots level is one of the fundamental pieces that we had in the mid-20th century that we no longer have. We are distracted by so many means, issues, mechanisms, whether it's social media or television networks or you name it. We seem to have lost that continuity, that element, almost indescribable and unidentifiable, but that brings us together in solidarity. And somehow we've got to rediscover that which coagulates our collective consciousness, that brings us together and enables us to move in concert to act upon our best interests.
I'm Jesse
Shows
Jackson.
like this one do that.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're in conversation and in the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. More when we come forward right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. The three major candidates for Los Angeles mayor had a heated debate Wednesday night. Reality TV star Spencer Pratt called Black Mayor Karen Bass a liar over the Palisades fire response, while Bass and Pratt also criticized City Councilmember Nithya Raman.
No name calling,
She just
please.
lied,
though.
The two top candidates in the June 2nd primary will advance to November's general election. The Los Angeles City Council has unanimously voted to end pretextual police stops. The tactic allows officers to pull drivers over for minor violations while investigating possible evidence of a more serious crime. Civil rights advocates say the stops disproportionately target Black and Latino communities. And rapper Kodak Black is facing new legal trouble after being arrested on a drug trafficking charge in Florida. The rapper, whose real name is Bill Capri, was booked into the Orange County Jail Wednesday. Court records say the case stems from a November incident near an Orlando nonprofit where gunfire was reported. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Got issues with youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit, offers more than 1,000 free online resources for youth and high school sports coaches, parents, students, and administrators. Visit PCADevZone.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Now that the Lakers know Luka Doncic will not play in the series against Oklahoma City, it's more important than ever for players other than LeBron to step up and make an impact. In Game 2 tonight, the Lakers cannot afford another performance where LeBron is the only player producing. Austin Reeves, Marcus Smart, and Luke Kennard missed a combined 27 shots in Game 1. And 4 players on the bench, Jared Vanderbilt, Luke Kennard, Jake LaRavia, and Jackson Hayes combined for only 15 points. Hayes and DeAndre Ayton also have to do a much better job in defending OKC center Chet Holmgren. Holmgren led OKC with 24 points and 12 rebounds and made both of his three-pointers. A game like this, with the Lakers down 0-1 in the best of 7, will give strong indications on whether Lakers coach J.J. Redick can make the right adjustments and get more out of his players than he did in Game 1. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Let's be real. For too long, too many of our students have sat in overcrowded classrooms in underfunded public schools.
But as head of the San Diego School Board, Richard Barrera changed that.
Under Barrera's leadership, student literacy rose from the state average all the way to #1 among major urban school districts. Barrera led the way for smaller classrooms and for teachers to be paid what they're worth.
Barrera funded more counselors and mental health services, and community schools that teach real-world skills for future jobs.
A community organizer who became an education leader to fight for our kids. The only candidate for state superintendent of public instruction,
Backed by the 310,000 classroom educators of the California Teachers Association. Vote Democrat Richard Barrera for state superintendent.
Ad paid for by California Teachers Association Independent Expenditure Committee, not authorized by a candidate or committee controlled by a candidate.
We don't do ordinary. This is KBLA Talk 1580. In a world full of noise, one station keeps it real. KBLA Talk 1580, where the conversation goes deeper, the voices sound like yours, and the issues that matter most to our community take center stage. Progressive, powerful, unapologetically us. Whether you're driving through this city or tuning in from your home or office, join the public square. KBLA Talk 1580, your home for talk that enlightens, encourages, and empowers. Listen live on our free KBLA 1580 app, on our website at KBLA1580.com, or on your radio dial at 1580 AM.
The joint will be jumping. Ebony Repertory Theater, in association with Big Street Films, brings you one of the most beloved musicals of all time. Tony Award winner, Ain't Misbehavin'. The soulful, swinging celebration of the music of Fats Waller. From the rollicking to the romantic, this show is pure magic, full of the songs that defined an era and the voices that'll make you forget everything else for a night. Foot stomping, heart stirring, unforgettable. Don't miss Ain't Misbehavin' at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center, starring Lettucey, directed by Ren T. Brown. This is the night out you've been waiting for. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Grab yours now at ebonyrep.org or call the box office today at 323-964-9766. Ebony Repertory Theater, bringing the culture, keeping the legacy alive.
Ain't Misbehavin' runs May 21st through June 8th at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Get your tickets now.
I need a little ranch, step to the ranch.
There's a new flavor in town, the Jalapeno Ranch Club at Chick-fil-A. With that juicy Chick-fil-A original spicy or grilled chicken, a buttermilk ranch bun, candied bacon, pepper jack cheese, and jalapeno ranch sauce. It's got big ranch vibes with a little heat. Chick-fil-A's new Jalapeno Ranch Club, available for a limited time only. Order ahead on the Chick-fil-A app.
Lots of places can expose you to identity theft.
Oh no.
That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity, which is way more than anyone can do on their own. If we find anything suspicious, like new loans or changes to your financial accounts, we alert you right away, all through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that could make all the difference. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now. Things are changing fast and no one knows what comes next. Times like these make you realize just how important it is to be prepared. That's where My Patriot Supply comes in. They're America's #1 most trusted resource for survival food, solar power, water filtration systems, and more. Go to preparewithamerica.com to unlock a special offer that'll help you get ready for whatever comes our way. Go to preparewithamerica.com to see the special offer right now. That's preparewithamerica.com.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We are in the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. Johnny, just before we continue our conversation, this is breaking news. Stupid mother effer. Tennessee Democrat rages at police during chaotic gerrymander protests. Just yesterday, Justin Pearson, State Representative Justin Pearson, a candidate for Congress in the 9th Congressional District of the state of Tennessee, was just manhandled along with his brother by state police officers as the state has now passed a vote to eliminate the only African-American congressional district in the state of Tennessee. Tennessee State Representative Justin Pearson got into a heated exchange with Tennessee Highway Patrol troopers on Thursday outside a chaotic redistricting vote at the state capitol. Local outlet WKRN caught the exchange on camera where Pearson was reportedly shielding his brother and moving away from him and from the THP officers after they were called to the scene to clear protesters from the building. WKRN reported that parachutes were thrown from the House gallery and the fire alarm was pulled. The redistricting effort, opposed by Pearson and other Democrats, had passed the State House on Thursday. At the time of Pearson's interaction with troopers, the governor has since signed it into law. Pearson can be heard in the video saying, "He'll walk the person out. You better let go of him, sir. You better let me out," Pearson told one officer, who appears to have been told to get back off of fellow officers as things got more heated. Pearson accused the officer of having him all tied up. Quote, "My brother ain't doing nothing to nobody. Hey, he'll walk himself out," Pearson said. The officer then can be seen letting go and raising his hand as Pearson got more agitated. "Boy," Pearson screamed in the face of the officer once his hands were up, and another officer can be heard saying to let the lawmaker go. Quote, "What the effing is wrong with you? The effing is wrong with you." Pearson walked away and yelled off camera, "You stupid mother effer." Johnny, we're having a philosophical conversation about the Voting Rights Act, about the crown jewel of what to do next, of saving the social edifice, of restructuring it to be more consistent with our values. But what's taking place on the ground, and we're going to discuss it tomorrow with Jonathan Allen and Gina Towns on Fat Meat Friday, right here on the Jesse Jackson Junior Show is a little different than the philosophical conversation that may take decades or be decades in the making compared to what's taking place right now in the Tennessee legislature. I mean, just moments ago. Johnny Mac?
Yeah, it gets back to King's urgency of now, doesn't it, Jesse? And when you think about it, even those...
Also, Johnny, I didn't mean to cut you off, but also State Representative Justin Jones set fire in the state capitol to a Confederate flag, just to give some more a fat meat, if you will, to the tension associated with what is taking place in Tennessee as we speak. Dr. Mack.
Well, you know, you can't make this stuff up. You know, these are incredible times, and I was beginning the point, Jesse, that this Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, Fair Housing Act, those triple virtuous acts only cracked the door open, Jesse. They weren't the promised land that King talked about the night of his assassination. As he looked over, it wasn't those three acts that he saw. He saw something far grander, far greater. And so we've lost so much. And what we're seeing now, as you've just described what's happening in Tennessee, it ought to be so alarming and so sobering to us all. If we don't come together, we don't act in unison, we've lost it all, Jesse. If we don't organize with the kind of structures, and you know, you said we were somewhat philosophical. No, you didn't use the word somewhat. I did. Yes, there's a certain ideology and philosophy in it all, but there's a very pragmatic sensibility in it as well. We can't solve a problem if we can't define it. You can't cure a disease if you don't know what the disease is. And so we have to be very, very purposeful and specific about how to make the change that is going to be necessary to protect our interests, quite frankly, to ensure not only our enfranchisement, but our full participation in the social life of the United States of America and beyond.
You know, Johnny, you know, I'm not an advocate for violence, and I will never be an advocate for violence. It's inconsistent with my religion. It's inconsistent with me theologically. It's inconsistent with my life work. I am not an advocate for violence. But even Dr. King had to come to terms with Malcolm's admonition that we have a choice. There's either going to be the ballot or the bullet. Now, I'm on the ballot side. I'm going to advocate and fight for the ballot until I am in my final resting place, because I believe there is that much power, far more powerful than any kind of bullet could ever advance. So do not confuse what I'm saying at all with any kind of encouragement of violence. What I am saying is that we don't understand fully just how powerful the vote is. It has the power to convert an enemy into a friend. It has the power to shape and change a person's point of view. It has the power, as my father would say, to take a man as mean as Bull Connor, and what makes a bull so special is he's got a pair, but if you cut the pair off, he's a steer. He's just not the same as the Bull Connor he used to be, because the political dynamic that Dad would say, you can take Bull Connor and turn him into a steer with the power of the vote. You don't have to cut him. You just have to know what the power of the vote is in changing the mind of even an arch segregationist. That's what Jesse Jackson was trying to say. And so I'm wondering, in this moment of heightened tension, when I reflect upon the history of philosophers and the time within which philosophy actually expands, it clearly expands when there is no war, when there is no civil discord, when we all have a time for a Jack on the rocks with a cigar, where we're reflective, right? But in times of war, in times of heightened anxiety and tension, no one has really time for reflection time. And every single day, there is what's taking place in Tennessee. There is the anxiety I'm witnessing right now from a state that has long trusted Congressman Benny Thompson, and to see Republicans who've supported his district for more than 33 decades are now dismantling that congressional district. South Carolina, the most powerful Democrat in the House. Why would we dismantle a congressional district, regardless of his color, for what he brings to the state of South Carolina? It baffles me that they are willing to turn their back on that progress just to eliminate majority-minority representation. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, Johnny Mack is going to have to walk me out of this. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The midterm elections are upon us. It is voting season once again. Common Cause's motto is fighting for the democracy we deserve. In service of that goal, Common Cause puts its state and national policy expertise, massive network of grassroots supporters, and nonpartisan approach into action to strengthen our democracy against the challenges we face today. They work at every level of government on priorities that impact each of our lives, like defending the right to vote, limiting big money's influence on our elections, holding public officials accountable, and more. Common Cause is a nonpartisan grassroots organization dedicated to upholding the core values of American democracy. They seek to empower all people to make their voices heard in the political process. This election may be the most important one ever. If you'd like to make a donation or volunteer in service to the Constitution, please visit commoncause.org. That's commoncause.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Knock, knock, Capital One Bank guy.
Wow, Charles Barkley?
I just moved into the neighborhood. Can I borrow some Wi-Fi?
Sure, Chuck. That's what the Capital One Cafe is here for. Open 7 days a week.
Oh, can I use your ATM? My dog walker only takes cash.
Anything for a neighbor.
Can I try the catchphrase?
Sure. Take it for a spin.
There's no fees or minimums on Capital One checking accounts.
Nice, Chuck. I'll take it from here. Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Visit CapitalOne.com/bank guide for details. Capital One and a member FDIC.
Follow the leader.
KBLA Talk 1580.
Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Indeed presents hires you can't afford to get wrong, like nuclear reactor safety expert.
I disabled the backup cooling system. It was making such an annoying noise. You heard it, right? It was like,
We're on the countdown to core failure.
And you're saying we don't want that?
This is a job for sponsored jobs. This is what happens when you don't sponsor your job on Indeed. Next time, get matched with quality candidates with Indeed sponsored jobs. Visit Indeed.com/hire now and sponsor your job today.
My name is Cynthia Mitchell. I've been an emergency room nurse in Los Angeles County for 25 years. I've been there through every fire season, every outbreak, every earthquake. Every time Los Angeles needed us, the doctors and nurses of Los Angeles County showed up. And right now, I'm seeing another disaster coming. Trump's cuts to Los Angeles County's healthcare system are a public health crisis in the making. Medi-Cal, public hospitals, disaster preparedness are all at risk, but we can stop it. Measure ER fights back against these cuts. For a half a penny, we keep emergency rooms open, care within reach for working families, and doctors and nurses serving the communities we love. When you vote yes on Measure ER, you're not just voting for healthcare, you're voting for LA. Vote yes on Measure ER by June 2nd.
Ad paid for by Yes on ER, Restore Healthcare for Angelenos, sponsored by St. John's Community Health and Health Justice Action Fund. Ad committee top funder, St. John's Community Health.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580, the World House with Dr. Johnny Mack. Dr. Johnny Mack is a scholar practitioner and expertise in areas of peace, conflict, social change, and movements. Extensive study of Dr. King's work. Dr. Mack argues nonviolence is a metalogic with direct structural and cultural forms that counterpose Johann Galtong's seminal conflict of violence triangles. Hey, listen, Dr. Mack, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, Jesse. Great to be here.
Doc, when I listen to Justin Pearson and I watch Justin Jones burning the Confederate flag today, this new generation is far less philosophical and far more action-oriented. And, I mean, they've studied Dr. King. Pearson is a minister and has a master's degree. And these are very, very thoughtful, a new generation of thoughtful legislators who are also very serious about their activism, willing to put their bodies on the line. We're reaching a point here now where traditional methodologies of nonviolent resistance are now being accompanied, as Atiba said in the last hour, with a verbiage, a language that is more reflective of something we haven't seen in combat for social justice in quite some time. One could argue, Dr. Mack, that we've reached a boiling point, and the hour of conciliation and reconciliation and the hour of being peaceable about our basic human rights, it's a fleeting moment. Dr. Mack?
Yeah. Well, we certainly have reached a point in time, Jesse, where I guess King called it nonviolence or non-existence. What we have available to us as a people globally and specifically here in the United States are the means to literally end our existence. What was available to the mid-20th century in terms of technologies, in the use of those technologies, whether they were to communicate, to legislate, whatever the issues were, are not quite or nowhere near what we have available to us today. And what I mean by that is, you're mentioning how the current generation is significantly different from the past. Well, the tools they have available to them, Jesse, are also very different. And as that goes for the individual, so it goes for the group. And as it goes for the group, so it goes for the nation. And that's why you see Iran holding its own against the most powerful, militarily speaking, and otherwise, nation on the globe. And so we have tools available to us that allow us to act in ways that we were not able to just 75 years ago during the modern civil rights movement. So how do we use those tools? People like Justin Jones and others are finding ways to do that. And we have to join hands with them and use them effectively. And this is the point I'm trying to get at, just like others are doing. And, there's a new technology. It took me too long to get to this point, Jesse, but we need to think in the terms of a new technology of nonviolence that we have not thought about before. New technologies has changed everything else and everybody else except our technology for nonviolent social change. Now, if you think that through carefully, it's saying something quite significant. Why have we missed this opportunity? And what have we missed? To fight back in a nonviolent way. We've got to do that kind of study and that kind of effort and employ those technologies to make the kind of social change we're seeking.
I just want to, before we get to your word of hope, in this moment, listening to you, Johnny, you got me thinking about my dad. He said one time that, I don't know if Dr. King was holding Martin Luther King III or holding one of his children, and either a protester or a police officer pushed him or shoved him. And Dr. King's reaction was all but nonviolence. He went off and had to be restrained. And my father asked Dr. King later about that impulse to the nonviolent ethic in that moment. And Dr. King reflectively said, I looked at my son and I thought about how my son would feel about me or think about me. And he pushed not just only me, but he pushed my son. And in that moment, I've always argued that Christianity is a thinking person's religion. This is not the religion of an ignorant person to give thought to what one's action and reaction is to stimuli and impulse are factors in this faith. But even if Dr. King is one of the foremost practitioners in human history of the art of the religion that Jesus of Nazareth himself never lived to finish, that the human reaction to the impulse is what it is. And it is not an unnatural reaction to retreat to the idea of nonviolence. There are still ways, but you lay hands on me, we're going to have a different conversation about the nonviolent ethic, and part of it's going to be pulling me off your ass. That's just a fact, Johnny.
Well, Jesse, you have to remember that nonviolence means different things to different people. We should have one of our sessions that simply explores what the word really means and what it means in very practical ways in how we act and interact with each other. Nonviolence is not just about not being physically violent. Too many of us don't really understand its power and how we can use it as a defensive mechanism as well as an offensive mechanism.
Johnny, very quickly, how can we support your work?
The World House Project, www.theworldhouseproject.org. That's our website, Jesse. And one can see our work and click on that button that says donate and make a tax-deductible contribution. Thank you for asking.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to The World House with Jesse Jackson Jr. on Johnny Mac and with Johnny Mac. Every Thursday, we have an important conversation about the unfinished work of Martin Luther King Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now.